I'm excited to have you guys on the podcast, Johann Urb and Rachel Pringle. Welcome to the Supergood Podcast.
Thank you so much. So excited to be
here. Actually, are you Rachel Urb now? What do you
I'm
go
Rachel
by?
Pringle. I was going to correct you. I'm Rachel Pringle Urb.
Okay, so
a lot of the times the herb is silent.
It's not.
It depends on how hot the guy is she's talking to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Supergood Podcast. My name is Cory Caprista. We have Johann Urb and Rachel Pringle Urb. Yeah, two of my best friends in the world. Yeah. Two of my best friends in the world. And, I've been lucky. I've had some great coaches on the podcast so far, but I would say you're two of the best teachers and coaches in the world. And we're going to get into some of the areas I think are really special. The thing I wanted to start with that I think is most interesting. So what's come up for me with you two the most in the last couple of years is you come up when I'm talking to someone who has a partner they're deeply in love with and they want to make it work, but they are having problems. And they're like, oh, it's kind of on the rocks, or it's not going in the right direction. And you can feel their heart is like, they're in love. They love this person. And you can see maybe they are fit for each other, but you can see there's some patterning that's really not working. And so you two are always the first people I think of when I'm like, you should work with someone, and it should be Johann and Rachel. And I think about you guys together, but I knew you before you worked together, right? I knew when Johann was purely acting and you were more coaching Rachel. And then that you guys got closer, kind of both in the teaching, coaching world with complementary skills. But then you actually started like working together. And so what I want to start with, I want to get a little bit into what is it like to work with your spouse. But before that, I'm curious how you look at couples coaching. Is that something you love doing? Has that been an interesting journey for you? Because I feel like that's a very unique type of support, is supporting the couple, the pair.
Yeah, I mean, we love it. It's such a, I think for us, our journey has been so rich and had so many ups and downs, been such a roller coaster. And we have had, from you specifically and from other close, dear friends, we would not have survived our relationship without your support, without their support. We know how vital it is to have mirrors that have your best interests at heart. And when we're working with couples, I think there's this like massive stigma around relationship, around what a good relationship is, what it's supposed to be like, the like king queen energy that's very present in society these days. And it's like such an amazing gift to be able to support couples in a real grounded, embodied way so that they can, as you so beautifully expressed, really like alchemize and transmute these patterns that are holding them back, because it's not just an them issue, it's a universal issue that we come up against over and over again.
Yeah, for us, it's our greatest joy and greatest pleasure, because it's so fulfilling. You know, it's rare and beautiful when you see a couple who are in their full bloom and know how to embrace all moments of life.
Yes.
Because there's a story, we get from the Disney movies or the romantic movies, or, this ideal that once you find your person, you're not going to run into anything anymore. You're sailing off into the sunset, riding off into the sunset, and it's all rainbows and contraction and expansion are interlinked.
Yeah.
So they always happen. You cannot have one without the other. And that's one of the biggest things is realizing that these moments of contraction, these moments of challenge are actually opportunities for deepening.
Yeah.
So that the grass keeps being greener right where you are versus you're seeking that aliveness and excitement elsewhere. But most of us don't know how to approach it elegantly, so we avoid it at all costs. And so for us, our journey, it was very, very challenging, as you well know. Went through
likewise.
And this idea that we're somehow supposed to know how to navigate it on our own, and it's shameful to share what's going on.
Yes.
And a lot of us are upholding this image that everything is good, and don't you share anything that's going on with us. It'll like put us in a bad light versus like, hey, we could use some support right now. And without that support, sadly, so many couples break up, and they might have kids, they might have built empires together, they might have had such a rich fertile ground which upon to build something, but they just leave it because they don't have the tools to actually till it and to grow it into a beautiful garden. And so for us,
we love it.
We love it so much, and it's such an honor and such a joy to help and hold people through that process and then see them flourish.
With Lena and I, my wife, we were lucky enough that when we were starting our relationship, I was living with the two of you underneath you. And so it was like so fun to live in community. It was like COVID, but being together was really, we're lucky. A lot of our friends or our community are coaches or teachers, and not everyone has that kind of community. Sometimes we kind of attracts like, and so we're around each other. And I look back in the same way you just said, like, if we didn't have you, I know Lena says it all the time, if we didn't have the two of you, I don't know what our relationship would have looked like. I don't know if we would have made it. And if we did make it, how much more pain and how much longer it would have taken to work through the contraction, because it was pretty rocky and pretty challenging. And for us, luckily it was organic because we were just together, and I trust the both of you so much, and she trusts the both of you so much, and you're so good at what you do. So I'm a big proponent of what you're talking about. Like, I'm a living proof. I try to always tell people that too. If a lot of people, when they see us as a couple, they're like, oh my God, you guys are amazing. I'm like, thank you so much. And there's no way we could have been the way we are, you're looking at right now, without the support of people outside of the relationship. So I'm curious, when couples come to you, how often are both of them really ready for the work? Or is it often one, so you're smiling, is it often one is a lot more like driving that and one's reluctant? Like, what's that like? What are the patterns you notice as people step in at the beginning with you two?
Usually it's the woman who is like, we need some help. And the guy's like, no, I'm good. And
it's all them.
It's
all
we're great.
We're
me
great.
and old lady, we're good.
And so and it usually takes a little bit of time for the man to realize the value of the coaching and the teaching and the container. But once they get it, they're all in. But there's usually a resistance from one partner. It's usually from the male.
Not always.
Not always. But it's definitely rare that both partners are like, yay, usually one is like really dragging their feet to be there, and there's kind of like ultimatum or something like, hey, if we don't do this, it's over. It's a lot of times it's really like a last resort type of a thing. But then it's beautiful to see that when people begin to apply the tools and the practices and bring in ritual into their lives and see that it's possible to recognize that it's not you, it's your pattern. It's, so often our identity, our ego is so afraid of change because we think that something is wrong with us, but it's just a pattern playing out. And when you realize that you're not your pattern, that's when the changes begin to really take place and happen, and people.
I think most people come in, whether it has a tendency to be the women driving it, but it's not always. However, we do find that there's one person being like, if you could just fix my partner, then everything would be great. And we're like,
well, not how it works. So we're going to flip that around to start. We're going to look at ourselves to start. So even the resistance to being supported or getting help, right? That's a pattern. And maybe also the focus on the other, like if they would just fix their stuff, we would be fine. That's also a pattern, right? But if you could speak to first the partner, if someone's listening and they're the partner that knows that them and their spouse or significant other needs to get into some sort of a program or coaching or therapy or whatever it is, what would you say to them? What would you want them to think about or focus if they're the one motivating the other? Or what would you guide them on how to think about that or approach that or behave to be as successful as possible and ushering both of them into getting some support?
It's such a good. I think the key thing that we see so often is when you're having a conversation with your partner or your significant other, the tendency is to blame. Even if you're being gentle, there is that aspect of like, listen, you're doing X, Y, and Z wrong, and we need to get this fixed. So wrong and fixed are trigger words for any of us. That brings us immediately back to our childhood. And the thing that I always like to invite in is the languaging around I love you. I'm recognizing that we continue to come up against this X, Y, and Z pattern or this loop. And I know that we have more in us. And I know that there's more in you and there's more in me. And I really want to discover that in you. I love you already. And I know that there's more that I could love or there's more that I could experience because I think for both parties, no matter who you are, when we feel like something is wrong, especially around love or partnership, which is really also a lot around sex and sexuality, there's such vulnerability and such like it's like it's a smack to our ego and our identity. And if we really choose the languaging that is to what Johann said before, there is this huge misbelief that we're supposed to know what we're doing. And we don't, especially around sex and partnership. It's new, conscious relationship is like a newer thing. It's not as widely spoken about or known. So it is, if you go in both knowing that you have a lot to learn and you as the partner who wants it is able to own what you want to learn about yourself, that is huge because in that recognition, you're not, the other person isn't like, oh no, I'm going into the ring where 3 people or 2 people, if it's one person, are ganging up on me and telling me what I'm doing wrong. That's really scary for people. Yeah.
And one of the things that is part of the curriculum that we teach is how to communicate.
Yeah.
How to communicate that in such a way that you're not shaming, blaming, guilting, projecting. Because the moment we feel that, the moment we feel that honest, like we don't want anything to do with it. So how can you say, hey, I want to own and take 100% responsibility that a part of me and witnessing a part of me really scared that if we don't, fix this or we don't do something about this, that it's going to end us.
Yeah.
Now I took ownership. I spoke to what I am experiencing versus putting it on them. You're doing this wrong, which is again, like good old saying, if I'm pointing a finger at you, you got 3 pointing right back at me. And that's what we tend to do in those charged up situations. And we don't want to touch that. So it's really, really important when we communicate that to do it in a way that is conscious and that is kind and that is compassionate and loving. So your partner feels like there's a chance here, and you're owning your own stuff. You're not blaming them.
Yeah, it's like I want to grow together, not you need to grow.
Yeah, I love that there's the bit of that nonviolent communication, what Johann was saying, of like, here's what I'm observing, maybe our pattern or what's happening. Here's how I feel about it. And I might be afraid, I'm worried, I'm experiencing some sort of pain or challenge around it. And then what I loved about Rachel was like, here's what I see for us, what I think is possible for us. And what was cool about what you said, Rachel, and I hope people they'll scrub back and listen to it again, probably replay that part. You said it so gracefully. It got me excited. There's like, there's more than whatever we're experiencing. It's not that it's bad. It's just there's something else. There's a different way, and there's more available to us. And I think when we can be more sounds more fun.
Yeah,
I like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what would you say then to the person, if you're talking to the person who's the one dragging their feet or resisting getting support, what would you say to them?
I would say that I can imagine there's a part of you that feels scared. And I want to let you know that that's completely normal. I think that the thing that Johann and I really value and take into every, circumstance with clients is like, we divulge like everything that's happened with us. That's, I think, the difference between us and perhaps like normal therapists or coaches is like, there's nothing we won't tell you. And so to normalize what they're feeling and to help them see that exactly what Johann said, that it's not them, it's their pattern. It's their pattern that's scared, it's their identity, it's their ego. And actually they're totally normal for feeling that way. They're totally normal for bumping up against whatever they're bumping up against. And actually all they really need is tools, and they could be an even more confident, empowered, excitable version of themselves. And I think, to what you said, Coco, it's like really about creating excitement in what they could experience versus shame around what they are experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And Johann, what would you say from the male perspective?
I would say that one of the biggest things, again, this is part of our curriculum, is changing the narrative.
Yeah.
If we just begin to say, hey, I fully trust and believe that this is happening for us, not to us. I believe that this is an opportunity for growth versus this is our decline.
Mm-hmm.
Changing that narrative and so becoming teammates in that moment. So we're on the same team, we're on the same side, we want the same thing, which is safety, intimacy, transparency, deeper connection, love, aliveness, passion. When we know what the goal is and we can agree on it, then it's a lot easier to say yes to it. It's not to tear each other down. It's not to shame each other,
or
blame each other.
Yeah,
I've been right the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's really about creating a narrative that is empowering, that is exciting, because all life is the meaning that we give it, right? So if we choose to believe that this is happening to us and we're a victim of it and it's bad, that's what it is. And the moment that we change the narrative, which is so incredibly empowering, it becomes that. And then, you're no longer in fight or flight. Your pathways open up, your blood goes back to your brain, you're able to think and have new thoughts. And then you can choose your thoughts, you can choose your feelings. And it's so life-giving. That moment you realize, wow, I'm really creating my reality. And why not create the most beautiful, empowering, rich reality where we can thrive in versus suffer in?
I love that. Yeah. The thing I would add for men out there is, winners are coachable.
Yeah.
If you feel that pride of competition, you want to be great at stuff, you feel like you're capable. It's like all the best winners, all my friends are the most successful business people, all the athletes I know that are most successful, all the ones you study, they're all been coachable in their careers. Now, maybe they don't listen to every coach all the time, but in general, they're willing to see, there's a better way to do it. Let me try that. I'll do it that way. And for, speaking of sharing your experience, you guys knew me before I went to the intimacy, relationship, and sexuality coaching course. I went to maybe I'll coach this, but really it was for myself. And I went in, and you've known me afterwards. And I went in and realized, most things they're coaching me on in this course, and it was a pretty in-depth course, I was doing most of the things wrong. Like I was doing them aggressively 180 degrees wrong. I was like, wow, well, this is difficult and humbling, but also, wow, it's a lot easier the way you're telling me to do it. And then if you sampled my girlfriends or just women that I interacted with before that course, and then you sampled the ones afterwards, including my current wife, you'd probably get a much better general, not that I was perfect afterwards, but you get a much more positive reaction from that sampling on that end. And I think, the hard part is maybe the accepting that maybe the way your pattern is working, the way you're going about it isn't maybe the ideal way. There's a better way. But then the cool part is, there's actually a better way, and it's more fun, more easy, more expansive, which is what you were mentioning, Johann, right?
Totally.
Yeah, that initial resistance, and I know all about it because I was that guy. I was like, therapy is for crazy people. You gotta be literally you gotta be insane to go to therapy. And, I've shot myself in the foot for so long and repeatedly, and with shotguns and bazookas and, I was so resistant. Part of me was so resistant to change. And I would say that a lot, especially men have that because we've been told to be certain. We're being told to do it right and stuff down your feelings and just you're supposed to just know stuff.
Yes.
And if you don't know something, it's frowned upon, you know? And so for men to go from the knowing into discovery mode, I don't know, I'm in the learning. That for me was the biggest shift in my life. When I went, wow, I've been in the knowing, which really means I've been stuck. I've been willingly like ignorant, essentially, because I just don't want to learn anything new, because it means that all the things that I've done would have like been unconscious in a way,
or
right?
wrong.
And wrong, to having enough humbling experiences in my life, going like, I am the common denominator. It's me, it's not them, it's me,
Yeah.
you
It's
know?
me.
And then exactly what you said, Cory, it's like, there must be a better way. There
Yeah.
must be a more elegant, graceful way. And there is.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
you learn these new tools, you literally get to recreate yourself, or reimagine, rebirth yourself into a much, much more aware, conscious, loving, compassionate, kind person. First and foremost towards yourself.
Yes.
And then towards others. And it's such a relief.
Yeah.
You're like, why didn't I do this sooner?
Mhm.
You know? Like, why am I
Yeah.
suffering?
Well, something you said there is something you taught me a long time ago. I know you had to learn it for yourself, which was the switch from identifying with the knowing to identifying with the learning, or maybe a better way of saying living in the learning versus living in the knowing. And I love what you're talking about. When you're in the knowing, you're like defending the space of what you already know. And so you're resistant to anything outside of that. You also can put subconsciously blinders on to any new information. And you're so focused on projecting out and getting people to see what you know and validate, oh, he's a knowledgeable guy, he knows what he's talking about, and your whole world is about that, versus switching to being in the learning, where it's all about discovery. Oh, what don't I know? Which is like a Ray Dalio perspective, the big investor, very famous investor. He comes in, he basically, the core question of his way he runs his company is, what do we not know that we need to know in order to improve and move forward? Something basically like that. So it's identifying with and living in the learning. And it like, I love the word relief there, because that's really what it feels like.
Yeah.
Well, I had this conversation recently with a woman who was saying, hey, I'm not in the best place with my partner. And me and Lena were standing there. We're like, well, what would you boil it down to? What's the issue? And it's like this person cannot say they're sorry, which I'll translate into like, has a hard time taking responsibility, apologizing. Right. And I've that pattern of the difference between people who are willing to take responsibility, apologize. It's sort of a corollary in my mind for people that are more growth oriented versus people that are a little bit more about defending their current territory. And so I see like a lot of nodding and yes. And so I want to just have you to get into, what is your view on taking responsibility, apologizing, not only in general, but specifically also for couples?
I would say that, first of all, I was that guy. I was that guy. Even as a child, you could not get me to apologize. I'd be in detention or whatever, timeout. I'd be like, I'll just wait you out. I'm not going to apologize. I was and it was like, just like, no. And it's still sometimes challenging for me to say I'm sorry. And one of the things, and this is really a really powerful tool that I want to share with our audience. When you don't feel ready to say I'm sorry, say I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. Because like for me, even sometimes when we get into a thing, I might not just be ready to say I'm actually sorry, because I haven't processed it fully yet. I haven't fully been able to take responsibility, to see my part, because my ego is flaring. But what I can say in that moment is, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. Really, that was not my intention. Because what I really want is connection. I really want is to feel the love between us. And, a part of me might still be in storyline. I was right about this or whatever. But the one thing I can say is, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. And then allows for her nervous system to calm down, right? So she doesn't need to battle me anymore. She now knows that I'm on my way there.
With that statement specifically, or that kind of apology, from my knowledge about that, its tone and like emotional correctness is vital, because you could say something like, well, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, which people say all the time. Yeah, Rachel's wagging her finger for those on audio. Don't do that. So can you guys talk about the tone or the energy behind that, or even maybe when you're apologizing in general, but also specifically that kind of statement?
Yeah, I would say that cadence and tonality and body language is just as important as the words you're saying. It is it's sharing the stage. And so the quickest way to access that is to move from your head into your heart. If you're
Quickest
apologizing,
way. It's so easy.
well, but no, but it is because if you really think about it, if you feel I'm in my head, I'm trying to fight a fight. And if you move down into your heart, you're feeling what the other person is feeling, and you're feeling exactly what Johann said, which is we're disconnected right now. And what I want is to feel connected. And you can even express, I recognize there's a part of me that's still processing my role in this. And I acknowledge that your feelings are hurt. And I'm so sorry that I hurt your feelings. I don't want disconnection. I'm really sorry that you're feeling this from me. Because then that's acknowledging the truth of the moment. Doesn't encapsulate the full truth of the experience yet. And that's important because you're in discovery. Whenever you're having any type of fight, it's not necessarily about the moment. It's about some deep ass healing from whatever childhood experience. It's like rolling into this experience. But if you can acknowledge that from the heart space, the person including you is immediately going to feel relief because they feel acknowledged that whatever misunderstanding is you see it. Even if you can't own it yet, you're able to see it.
Another thing there I'd like to add is we forget that whenever we're talking and thinking, we're not just talking to the other person.
Yes.
We're also talking to ourselves. So we're constantly listening to our own thoughts.
Yeah.
So when I bring in what we call co-devotional communication and I say, hey, I want to own and take responsibility that a part of me, or I'm witnessing a part of me, that's still mad, still angry. And there's another part of me that loves you deeply and wants connection. Now I'm literally talking to my own nervous system, going like, there's these two parts at least alive in me right now. And it allows me, not just them, but me to calm the F down. Because otherwise, if we're only acknowledge the part that is like flared up and angry, we're just in a total battle mode or like, shut down mode. And so it's so vital that we are using our words and the tonality to be kind towards ourselves, which for a lot of people is really hard because we have such judgment and we get angry with ourselves and frustrated, and so it literally goes in both directions.
And, I wanted to the callback on the first thing that you asked, Coco, because for me, I think taking responsibility is and willingness is so crucial. And I think the biggest thing that we're working with on that subject is this misbelief that if we own or take responsibility or apologize for something, that we are weak. And that's the thing
or that we admit that we're wrong.
Yeah, that means that we're weak, and that we don't know something. And if people can understand that it's literally the opposite, when you are not able to own and you're not able to take responsibility or apologize, that is weakness. That is, and people, the thing that I wish for all people to realize is that when you are able to own your own stuff, there's literally nothing more empowering than that. There's nothing more trustable in a person that if something, like I use this example all the time, but it's so important. If someone comes up to me and says, hey, Rachel, like what you just said was really intense and I'm experiencing that I'm shut down and like I don't know how to approach you. I'm like, oh, wow. Thank you so much for expressing. I know that part in me. I know that when Rachie gets intense, it is like a fire hose. Even though I might not intend to be that way, he knows it. Yeah,
I know it too.
It's like, whoosh. And so when someone says that and I'm able to own it and acknowledge them and say, you're not wrong, you're not crazy, I own this part in me, immediately they trust me. And that's creating the intimacy and the connection that I actually want in a relationship. If I deny them, I'm creating a totally disillusioned connection, because then you are I'm not only creating like lack of safety in my own body because I'm in denial about my own experience, I'm creating that in them. And then our relationship can't really, we know this about human beings. And so it's like really recognizing that when we are in ownership, when we can apologize and say, hey, yeah, I recognize that the way that came out, and to connect it for ourselves and for them, like it's very similar to when I was in this past relationship and I used to do this because of this experience, and I fully own that. I'm so sorry. I recognize that. I don't want to do that with you. It comes from this part of me that feels scared or feels like I'm losing my power. Then you've opened up an entire universe of understanding and depth and trust that is going to create so much beauty in the long term that is the complete opposite when you're in denial.
Yeah, and when you're not willing to take responsibility or apologize, not only is it actually weakness, and I would say like a prideful version of weakness, right? It's extremely unattractive.
So unattractive.
If you think you're being in your power, and when I'm doing this later, when I look back in those moments where I'm being stubborn and not apologizing, and I'm like, no, right now, this time I've been apologizing all this time.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm not. And then great job, Cory. You're killing it. So good at being married. And then I look back and I see myself, like I can imagine that moment. I'm like, I'm so grossed out. It's like so repellent.
Yeah.
And that's what you look like to other people and your partner. And when you're actually like looking at whatever you can take responsibility for, right? Acknowledging it, communicating, letting someone else know that you see it. And maybe you even see what led to you being that way, apologizing, and then talking about what you can do going forward. It creates a lot of trust, like you're saying, but it also draws people in. You're so attractive and magnetic, and it creates intimacy and connection, right? So, a bonus, you're going to be hotter when you apologize and take responsibility.
100%. Hottest person in the room.
Yeah.
Hottest person in the room. And I'll just say quickly, if you think that taking responsibility or apologizing takes so long, you don't have time for it, you're busy, I gotta work on something, or I gotta go somewhere, I can't deal with this right now. Here's how quick it can go. Let me take responsibility for what I did. So what happened, what I put into it. Let me say I'm sorry. Could be really short. So take responsibility, could take a little bit of time. Let's say all that you can be responsible for. Say I'm sorry, that short. And then talk about what you're going to do different going forward.
Yeah.
Once you're ready to actually look at it and take responsibility and surrender to that moment, to that person, that connection, it can happen in minutes.
Yeah.
And then you move forward and it's so clean and clear. So I think a lot of people feel like, oh, that's going to be messy. That's too many feelings and emotions, and I'm going to be stuck in processing forever. And it doesn't have to be that way. And maybe if you are getting stuck, that's something to look at for yourself. Or maybe your partner also needs to learn tools. So you need to learn them together. The we needs to learn tools. You both talked about two things I want to get into. One is the parts of myself. But also before that, can you talk about the difference between taking 100% responsibility and apologizing for things you're actually not sorry for or that you didn't do wrong? Because I hear this a lot from people. We talk about, hey, we're going to talk about taking 100% responsibility. And then a lot of times people's immediate reaction, especially men that I've coached or friends of mine, it's like, well, didn't do that. And they'll go right to the part of the situation that they aren't sorry for, which is reasonable from one perspective. It's like, I want you to know that I see that part maybe wasn't you. But so I'm just curious your guys' perspective on the difference between 100% responsibility and kind of apologizing for things that you're actually not sorry for, you didn't think you did wrong.
Yeah, I think that, and to what you said as well, Coco, is like when you, from my perspective, in my direct experience, like when you learn these tools, you're saving infinite time, like so much time. You are taking yourself out of the doghouse. And I think to what you're expressing, I believe that is true. Is like, what can I take 100% responsibility for? That's, to me, I have like a series of little questions that I ask myself when I'm in a heated moment. Okay, what in this moment right now can I take 100% responsibility for and fully own in my experience, so that I can calm my own nervous system and get out of fight or flight or freeze or fawn, and do that for the person opposite me. And then apologize. Like the apology thing is really interesting because you can see that when we move into that, that's where ego clicks in. And it's like, well,
Mm.
I'm not going to apologize for that because I'm not sorry. Yeah, exactly. No way. And I think that, again, if you can use that as an indicator that you're out of alignment and out of centeredness, and like ask yourself, okay, what am I afraid to feel in this moment? What is this stubbornness blocking me from actually feeling whatever it might be? It could be something super vulnerable. I don't know why I did this. I don't know how I actually feel. I feel, part of me feels powerless or hopeless or confused, or I can't gain my power back, or whatever it is. And it's like, there is no formula, because every experience is different. And what we really want for people is to become a team and to be in discovery for the deepest healing for the both of you. Because when one wins and the other loses, both are losing. And so you want to both be winning, and you want to both be treating every contraction with a deep amount of care and like and love, and understanding that contractions are leading us to really wounded parts of us that want our attention and love and care. And so it's not like a percentage formula. It's just, where can I fully take 100% responsibility, and then where can I fully own part of me doesn't want to take responsibility for this, because a part of me is, has my heels digged in, and like, let's actually explore that together, because I want to know about that part of me.
Bringing in that curiosity. I love that.
Exactly.
I mean, she said it so elegantly and beautifully. And for me, when I feel Rachel is heated, and it's usually, a certain time of the month, which I think a lot of women
Don't worry, I'll edit that out. I'll edit that out, Johann. Don't worry.
Can relate to. But, women, especially, their hormones are on a ride, and so,
Indeed.
and so
That's true.
we as men, and for women as well, to understand that. And when she begins, I can feel that she's heated. And when she begins with, I want to own and take 100% responsibility, I immediately come to the table. I immediately come forward, versus if she's just pointing out what I'm doing wrong or something. And even if it's not about me, if it's about someone or something else,
Yes.
it's like, it still feels like, she was talking about that fire hose. It's still intense AF, So it's like, when we begin with that, when we can own our stuff, it's so powerful. And another tool that I wanted to add in, which is the last thing you're going to want to do in that moment, because sometimes it feels like we're just spinning in place. It feels like we're just looping and nothing's changing. And this is where rituals and practices are really powerful to break that loop. Is calling on a sacred timeout, and which needs to be respected by both parties, and then saying, hey, let me focus on what we can be grateful for right now. So I'm going to say 3 things I'm grateful for about you and our relationship, and then you're going to do the same. And again, like, usually the ego is like, fuck, hell no. I'm not grateful about anything right now, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's like, instead of being in the automatic thought pattern, you're and it'll feel like, go over to the gratitude. And then when you're actually also seeing what's right about your life, right about this relationship, right about this moment, I choose to believe, I'm so grateful that this is happening for us. I'm so grateful that you're here with me through these tough moments. I love you so much. Immediately changes the way that everything is being weaved.
And it's bringing you from your head back into your heart, so you can actually come back to what you're feeling. Because most of us, when we're in these type of interactions, we're debating from our mind, and and the mind is activated when, like, overactivated, I should say, when we don't want to feel what our heart is feeling. And when we can actually come down to the heart and simplify into, going back to parts theory, is like, I'm witnessing a part of me that feels really hopeless, or I'm witnessing a part of me that doesn't feel seen or heard, or for what Johann expressed, like, if I just own, like, hey, I want to own that, like, there's a part of me that's feeling totally crazy right now. And that's, again, not just for him, it's for me. I'm like, wow, this one part is like, whoa. And then for me especially, it brings in this level of humor that really softens my edges to just like own and out this part of me. And then he becomes my safe space versus my enemy.
Right.
Especially for people in that type of dynamic, when there is that time of the month that it naturally happens. Like there's certain periods where just him breathing can annoy that part of me. It's not him. I love the way he breathes like 99% of the time.
Yeah.
But when you're able to out and see that there are all these different parts happening and expressing all at once, it's like it really softens and makes us have really deep compassion for ourselves. That's what we need in these type of interactions: compassion for self, compassion for other, and a discovery, curiosity mindset.
And so
Yeah, I
one thing I
think
would say is, for the listeners, you're not, because someone might say, "Hey, you're avoiding the issue, or you're trying to bypass something," right? If you're gonna put the focus elsewhere, that's not what we're inviting people to do. We're inviting you to break the loop.
Yeah.
So you say what you're grateful for. You create a new pattern, and then you can go back to discussing from that place of also having acknowledged everything that is right, everything that is good, or at least some parts that are right and good, so that you'll now have more energy, more awareness. So both areas are highlighted, because whatever we focus on becomes our reality. If we only focus on the problem, we're myopic. That's all we see.
Yeah.
Let's look at the whole playing field. Let's look at how many times we've been here before, and what it's actually, these contractions have led to expansions and maybe deeper understandings, And so it's really, really important to widen our gaze, if you will, widen the perspective, so that we feel more resourced.
Yeah, there's a part of me I've noticed in the past. It's not as common now, but I've noticed it at times, that subtly, maybe even subconsciously, maybe it's semi-consciously, there's a part of me that actually doesn't want us to win in this moment. I actually want to fight. I actually kind of want it to be bad, and I want to stay there. And so I think what I heard you guys say is, check in, where are we actually coming from? And if you can be honest with yourself and be like, am I actually going for the win-win or not? If you can make that shift, that's a big change. And then the curiosity piece. Okay, if we're going for the win-win, let me look at everything I can see. It's a game.
Yeah.
Just like gratitude's a game, which we'll get into here more in a second. The game of how much can I find that I'm responsible for?
Yes.
And what's amazing is as you unlock through the game of all the things, and you can surprise yourself. Wow, I didn't even see that I was doing that. But as I talk myself into it, there's even more I was doing here than I realized. And you just keep going. Often when you're doing that, really from a curiosity, not beating yourself up, you're kind to yourself, you're compassionate to yourself, but as honest as you can, but kind and compassionate. So you have that objectivity, right? But you also have the kindness with it.
Yes.
The other partner is listening and can also, not only because you're leading and going first, and then, oh, wow, I'm drawn in because my partner is taking responsibility, right? And I can see they really are looking to see how we can get out of this and how it can be a win-win. You're actually, their mind's going to start clicking on stuff they didn't even see about themselves. And you start putting the puzzle together of how you got there. You go, oh, and it's kind of a really satisfying game. And as I even say that, I can feel the contraction turning back into expansion, right?
Yeah.
So that's like the inside out of that process.
To what you said, Cory, is like owning, like that's such a true thing that you offered into the space, is like, there is a part of me I'm witnessing that like kind of wants to be in this fight right now,
Yeah.
and I own that. And where does that come from? Like, that's huge, because I think that I can definitely resonate with that. I think most of us can resonate. I know that there's times where I'm just like slinging the rope just to see what I can do. And just like, doing that, being like, a part of me wants to like, just to see what happens. It's powerful.
Yeah. There's a stimulation to the friction, right? Like there could be a part of you that seeks that friction, that heat, that force. And we've been dancing around it. So let's just go to parts of me work. Like I know some of it comes from internal family systems. That's a more specific version and they have their own model and it goes pretty deep. But I think for a lot of people that have never heard of parts work, you know, the idea is that if you can just realize that in yourself and in others, there's multiple parts of oneself that are operating at any given time that are kind of vying for the one output, which is your behavior, right? You can have many inputs, voices and impulses and emotions can happen concurrently, but you can only be doing one thing at a time. There's only the present moment. And so they're all kind of vying for this one thing, which is your behavior, your output, whether you're breathing calmly, whether you're screaming at the top of your lungs, whether you're being reflective or defensive. And so we have different parts of ourselves, right? And so if we can learn to speak the language of the parts of ourselves, so we can look at that internally, but then also share that with others, there's sort of this unlock of, wow, oh, I can create some separation. I am not necessarily that feeling or that thought, but it is also happening. So a part of me is feeling that or thinking that versus I feel that, I think that. And so that's sort of my summary of parts work. Feel free to embellish that or correct me, but I'm really curious about how you see parts work. I imagine it's one of the foundational things you work with couples on. But why is that so important? We kind of talked about it a bit, but if we can go right at parts work, why is that so valuable?
I mean, I think you expressed it freaking beautifully, and like I'm like, yes, exactly, nice, baby. I was like, damn, you're so sexy and smart. I like that. I think that you said it perfectly. The most important aspect of parts work is being able to become the witness and to become the observer, and to not be the analogy that I always give is like the difference between being the egg in the boiling pot of water and viewing the egg inside the boiling pot of water. It's a totally different experience. One is you're being flailed and tossed around and you're totally becoming a victim to your emotions and feelings. You have no stability or foundation. And the other is, wow. And it comes from this perspective of intrigue and curiosity. And like we like to say that you become like a scientist of your own experience and the human experience. And therefore everything is an experiment and you're not trying to win, or be goal oriented. You're really from the perspective of like, oh, interesting. This is so fascinating. And that is just, and in across the board, you're so much calmer. You're so much calmer. You're like at a really like woosah space. And then your system calms and the other person's system calms. And that alone is bringing us back to the awareness that we are not our emotions, are our feelings at our core, at our soul. We are the witness that those feelings and emotions pass through. And so we can see that there's two things that are constant in this entire universe. We are going to die and things are going to change. And so we have seen that over and over again when we have that perspective that, there's going to be a storm that's going to come. It's going to hail like lightning and thunder and craziness. And then there's going to be a clear blue sky and you're going to forget all about and it's going to happen over and over and over again. And so being able to really hold yourself in the eye of the storm versus just throwing yourself into the hurricane, it puts you into a state of deep empowerment and you gravitate everyone else to that state.
And I would say that most people, especially if you're younger and you haven't had a lot of life on this planet, you don't yet know that you have these different parts of you. You're still very much, kind of running with the emotion and whatever is alive in you right now. That's what you think you are. And so when we bring in this awareness, again, we are talking to ourselves, most importantly, and our cells and our atoms and our molecules, because our body's constantly listening. Am I safe? Or am I not? And so if we are saying that I'm upset, I am not safe right now. So I'm producing the hormones and everything in the body that puts me in a state of fight or flight, essentially. If I'm talking about there's parts in me. There's a part of me that feels safe. There's a part of me that feels afraid. My body's like, oh, okay, got it. So we have options. So, okay, I'm kind of like half prepared for both, instead of just one thing. So you're much, much more effective
Yes.
at finding resolution, finding answers, being in discovery versus being in fear. And so it's so vital and important that first and foremost that we learn to think in this way and make meaning in this way. And through us changing our state, because everyone's got, the mirror neurons, where constantly bodies are going like, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? And so when we are learning to calm down and regulate our nervous system, to deepen our breath, to say, I'm okay right now. I'm just witnessing these different parts in me, literally brings everyone else's nervous system back to balance as well. So it's so vital that we would begin with ourselves versus expecting the other to do the work for us.
Yeah, so the parts of ourselves work can help us look at ourselves from a calmer lens. We're not the egg boiling in the water with all that heat and we're just being cooked alive. But we can go, wow, part of Cory's having a pretty intense experience right now. He's having there's a feeling of heat inside of part of me right now. One thing that I've learned from you two, maybe more than anything, and I've learned so many, I always say, I'm like, well, most of the reason I am the man that I am is because Johann and Rachel, I just copied, I just stole all their best parts and code and just implanted them. I was like, oh, life's better this way. It's just a better existence. But the self-love piece is, I think, the number one. You talk about mirror neurons and what the people who you surround yourself reflect back to you. I think that's the biggest thing that you've reflected back to me in my life is to start learning and then make progress in mastering. I'm still in the practice and in the growth around it. How to love oneself, how to love myself. And I didn't really make that connection before until you guys said that, but I think that's right. If you can look at the parts of yourself, for people that are anyone who's listening who can be very critical, self-critical, judgmental, maybe even low self-esteem, self-loathing, right? Learning to laugh with yourself is like the best medicine ever. And having a sense of humor, because laughing at yourself is quite cruel and mean, right? That's like the bully on the playground laughing at you when you do something wrong. That's just more cruelty you're doing to yourself. But when we do parts of ourselves work, we can look at a part of ourselves that's maybe not the cutest part of ourselves. It's a petty part. It's an ugly part. It's an annoying part. And because it's not your identity or who you are is not on the line. That's not the stakes of like, oh, if I accept this part of myself, then I am that. And then now I have to live as that forever. That's pretty high stakes, right? Damn, I'm annoying or I'm petty or I'm whatever, small, shitty person. That feels really heavy and there's a lot of stakes to that. So you can kind of push it away. But when you can just say a part of myself is, well, then you can smile at, oh, and this comes from like Aubrey Marcus. He talked about, oh, the Aubrey's feeling this way. And I kind of borrowed that. The Cory is feeling this way. So I look at a part of myself and I can laugh with myself and actually have a sense of humor. And that is transcendent, especially around learning to love yourself and being compassionate, as Johann was talking about. Can only pour out what we have in our cup, right? So for however we're going to treat others is all we can give them is what we have. And so parts of ourselves work is a way to also get to know yourself in all your beauty and all your mess and love yourself more deeply, laugh with yourself, tolerate, accept, love yourself. And I think that, as you said, it brings the temperature down or the calmness in because there's more acceptance and more understanding, right?
I think there's this amazing, I think it's Zoe Saldana, and she's in an interview and she's like, I like myself. I like the way that I work things. I like the way that I like, it's like that aspect is, this work is giving you an opportunity, and I can think about myself. Like I really love and care for all parts of myself. That includes a part of me that is like looking for a fight or is being, cold or being like, it's, if we think less about this like hierarchical or perfectionism that we're trying to reach for, which is actually not what we want or find trust or safety in. We find trust and safety and deep desire and attraction towards someone who is who's with all parts and is like, wow, I have this part and I have this part and I have this part, and they're all beautiful and worthy of being here. And to what you said, that's like absolutely my way of like, I know this part, especially when I'm around my cycle, where I'm like, ooh, she is spicy, moody. And I know her enough that like I'm giving her acknowledgement, and I'm seeing her, but I'm not giving her the stage. I'm acknowledging that she's having a moment. And then I'm also, the other aspect of this that I think is important to say is like creating safe and sacred spaces for these parts to have the stage. That's why ritual is so important, is to bring them into a practice, to bring them into, a workout or a breathwork practice or a meditation practice where they can have, their full voice experience, and to know that they just like, I would say that more so in IFS work, they're really acknowledging that these are parts of our childhood that are coming out that they don't feel heard, seen, received, loved, acknowledged, and received. And if we can bring them into a space of safety and sacredness where they do get to do that, they immediately change shape. And they're immediately like, oh, I want to cuddle, I want I want love. And so it's a beautiful journey to loving self. And it's, again, the thing I want to pinpoint, is not about being a perfect version of you. We actually don't trust like people who are seemingly perfect. We trust people who have the willingness to own what they're experiencing, because we can feel it. And we are energetic beings. We can walk into a room and feel what someone else is experiencing. If we go up to them and say, hey, I'm feeling like, is something on? And they're like, yeah, actually, like there's a part of me that's feeling really like low. I've been feeling like I'm there's a part of me that's good, but there's also this other part of me that's like in a transition. You're like, oh wow, thank you for like sharing that. I feel that too. Also, I'm actually experiencing a part of me that's feeling that. Then there's this connection. And you can talk about it from the perspective of not being all the way down in that hole, but like, oh, wow, what are you experiencing? What is it bringing up for you? Like, how are you, working with it? How is it affecting you? And then you're in curiosity and discovery together. It's really exciting versus debilitating.
Yeah. And I think especially when we have a foundation of being heliotropic or just growing towards the light, if you can hold both the paradox of acknowledging the parts of yourself that maybe you're struggling or feel lost or sad, or I'm having a contraction around this part of my life or this person, but you're not trying to stay there. Not that you can always force yourself out. You might have to let yourself go through that process, but that you're anchored in, I'm always heading back towards the light and the goodness. I think that's kind of the paradox to hold, because otherwise we can end up in kind of the echo chamber of the pity party and the victim story, which is so tempting because it feels so good down there. Even though it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good at all. It's like horrible, but it's like this giving up feeling that can be so nice to just surrender to the victim. And so speaking of, you've mentioned ritual a few times, and I look at the two of you are like the ritual masters. And if you need a ritual, go to Johann and Rachel, and they will slang you a ritual of a different type. And I wanted to get in a few, just in general, talk about the power of ritual. That word is it's kind of a woo, not kind of, it is a woo-woo word. We're now entering woo-woo territory, population us.
Yeah.
And ritual doesn't have to be, or practice doesn't have to be so woo-woo. It can go all the way to full spiritual, and that's beautiful. And one thing you mentioned that I think of as like a very entry-level ritual is gratitude practice. And just because it's entry level doesn't mean it's always easy. If you're taking a walk with Johann and Rachel, you're going to get, we're going to gratitude bombed, where Johann's going to be like, so what are we grateful for? Cory, you go first. I'm like, yeah, you go first. I'll go second. And it's just hilarious watching how we're on a normal day. I'm not even really in a bad mood. And as soon as someone asks me to do something, and it's something I know I'll like having done, and I don't want to do it, but I'll be happy it's done, how resistant I get to jumping in that cold water of that ritual. And it's the same feeling I get before I actually get in a cold plunge, before I get on stage and do a public speaking
Yeah.
engagement, before I record a podcast, it's this, I don't want to do it at all. I want to run away. And I imagine most of the rituals that you two use for yourself and maybe teach others, a lot of people have resistance to them.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear about ritual. Talk a little bit about some of the entry level ones, particularly gratitude practice
Yeah.
would be one to get into, and then we can see where we go from there.
First of all, I want to debunk the word ritual. I think it's just, if another way of
Please.
thinking is action with awareness.
Yeah.
Or action with intention.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Intention,
so it's like really ritual. I love the word because it's so juicy, but I can see how some people might come up against, what does it mean? Right. So it's just action with intention.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do this, as the moment we become intentional about something, we're changing our state.
Yeah.
Because no longer are we just on automatic. And a lot of the automatic noise that goes on is from the unconscious and subconscious part of us that we don't even remember from our childhood. That's disempowering stories. And it just runs in the background, and then we just need to look at Instagram or the news and more disempowerment, comparison, I'm not good enough. And that's just kind of the background noise all the time.
Yeah.
So when you bring intention into your day, like a gratitude practice, like pyramid breath, you are actively changing your world, your inner world. And because of that, the outer world, the way that you perceive the world and the meaning that you make is all state-based. So that's why these practices we can feel so much resistance, because a part of you is like, I'm already good.
Yeah.
I don't want to state change. That sounds kind of dangerous. Or it's the unknown, like, why would I want to change this? I'm kind of good. And then when you do it, like you said, whether it's a cold shower or it's a breath practice or gratitude practice or a workout, you're so grateful. Even as you're doing it, you're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. So it's so vital that we bring these practices in, because otherwise you're literally at somebody else's behest, or somebody else is running your program. You're not in charge. You are just, the world is happening to
being
you
ineffective
versus you are happening to the world. And so it's just a disempowered state.
And I also think it's important to debunk resistance, because I love what you expressed, Cory, and I so have been there. And we have been doing this practice for, let's say like 11 and a half to almost 12 years. And there's still a part of me that resists every fucking time. Johann, leader in this practice, which I'm so grateful for. He'll be like, so what are you grateful for? And I'm like,
you go first.
And it's important to just name that no matter how this is like ingrained in what you do, resistance is a normal thing that we all experience. Like you said, Cory, we are ritual masters, both of us, individually, separately, together, and that resistance pretty much always appears. And so to recognize that resistance is actually the ego, like you said, that wants to stay safe and cozy. It's like, no, I don't want to grow, and to acknowledge it with a bit of humor, and to recognize that you are moving from automation into intention, and that is a super powerful experience. To know that you're not alone in resistance, that I believe every single one of us feels resistance. It's totally normal to feel that. And when you like work against that resistance and reclaim your effect on the universe and the world, it's super empowering. And as Johann said, and as you said, Cory, it's like like maybe a couple minutes into it, you're like, I can feel my state changing, with gratitude, especially because I'll be like, I don't want to do this. And then I can feel, 2-3 minutes in, I'm like, oh, I'm changing my entire state. I'm in the flow, and I'm resetting my system to focus on all of the things that are happening, that are working, that are, whatever it is.
Or that we're creating.
And it is such an incredibly empowering and awe-inspiring thing to be able to pull yourself out of automation and into co-creation, especially when you recognize that you're doing these rituals with someone. Like, of course, it's amazing to do them on your own, but enlist people. Like when we're doing a gratitude walk together, it's awesome. it's amazing.
Yeah.
We're all swimming in our own, in our joint soup, and we're infecting each other with this good feeling, and we're creating that, as you have said so many times, that magnetism that draws
Yeah.
people, experiences, and opportunities to us from that point.
And even if we drive separately and
Yeah,
we're going to train or something, we'll get on the
we'll get
phone.
on the phone.
We'll do it on
Oh, that's so cute.
the
This is when people listening are going to be like, oh, and they're going to be jealous. And they're going to be like, this is so cute. Okay, keep going.
No, and it's because it's better together.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
Yes.
And there are days when I do this by myself.
yeah, same.
Yeah.
And because I know how effective it is. I know how powerful this is. Because again, my body is always listening
Yeah.
to what I'm saying and what I'm, feeling. So my
Yeah.
body is otherwise it'll just be an automatic. And because we have a 5-to-1 negativity bias, all of us humans, we'll focus on the danger.
Yeah.
We'll focus on what's wrong. We'll focus on, something that is disempowering that we have no power over changing.
Mm-hmm.
Versus taking our attention and focusing on what's right and what's good. And then for couples especially, and you know this, Cory, when we bring in the gratitude practice, I'm loving the feeling of what we're creating together. I'm loving the feeling of life getting better and better forever and ever. I'm loving the feeling of how good it feels when I go into the future and I look back and I'm like, wow, we're living our best life and we're sailing the seas. And, right away, I'm like, my body's like, woo!
Yeah, party!
But the truth is, all there is this moment right now. There is no future. There is no past. Well, we can actively create our future by the state that we choose to embody because everything is energy. So when we change our internal energy field, we begin to attract like we talked about that earlier. We have a lot of coaches, a lot of people that are aware, vulnerable, available in our circle.
Yeah.
Because we choose to be that way. Same with everything else. The energy that you cultivate within yourself is the energy that the universe will match you with. It's just magnetic.
Yeah, there was a course I went through, and I'd always had this sort of perspective shift from it's happening to me to it's happening for me, right? So it's happening to me is sort of the traditional victim consciousness, right? You're at the effect of the world. You're not powerful. You're not empowered. It's all happening to you. And then there's sort of the manifestation kind of consciousness where it's all happening for you, right? And that's a bit of a gratitude kind of consciousness there. And it served me really well. Like, I can see how this is happening for me. It's actually not bad. It's actually the thing that's leading me to it.
Yeah.
And that allows me to connect the dots and see with gratitude all of the gifts and all of the abundance that's flowing into my life, how I have so much around me and it's all right there. It's been really beautiful. But then this program actually took it one step further and said, life is happening from you.
Yeah, through you.
And that's really what you guys are talking about, right? And it doesn't mean that the for you can't be there as well, but there's actually this other level of like, life happens from you.
Yes.
And that's sort of more of a leadership perspective on what you're creating, right? And the universe will meet you there and it'll match you there and it'll also reflect that from you. And so what you're really talking about with ritual, what I'm hearing at least is that ritual actually you can shift the state internally. So what is happening from you is actually different than it otherwise would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
1,000%.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the work you're doing with the Pyramid Breath teacher training and that work, because you guys have kind of different parts to the work you do. You coach individuals, you coach couples, you do kind of retreats and immersions. And then around ritual though, a big part of your ritual you've done as a couple is pyramid breath practice. And you've gone deeper and deeper with the people in your community and people that do. So talk to me about just sort of giving the overview of what it is, how it started, and then what you're doing with that part of your ritual and practice.
Well, it started about 8 years ago, was it?
Almost 9 years ago now, yeah.
And for me, it was, we were practicing every day. We were doing Kriya Yoga every day, which is a really beautiful traditional practice of meditation and breath work. And then I had this, make a long story short, this realization that the way that I was relating to the divine or the universal consciousness was as a masculine force. And then I began to see that I totally ignored the feminine part of the creation. And that also included the feminine part of myself. I was very rigid. I was very in my masculine. I was very much in the knowing, and versus in discovery. And the moment when I shifted that into including the feminine as well, and began to relate to the divine as her and seeing the feminine creation all around us, the flowers, the trees, as a feminine creation, this download literally started to come through me where my body began to move and shake and make sounds and all these things, which in time began or culminated in what I now call pyramid breath. And it's a really, really freeing, wild, amazing, embodied practice versus a rigid one. It's the opposite of a rigid practice.
Yeah, very dynamic.
All parts of us get to express, and without the need for the intellect to control it. So that we give the body and the sub and unconscious parts of ourselves freedom to express without the editing of the intellect. While we connect with primordial divine energy and remember that we are the creator. Again, life is happening from us, and that we are the creatrix. And this practice for us is a daily practice, and it's one of the most profound, easy, fun ways to shift our state.
Yeah.
You can go into the practice feeling really discombobulated or really frustrated, really angry, and you come out of it going like, oh yeah, I remember, because it's beyond your intellect. Your whole being has a visceral experience of remembering that you're not your identity. You're not your stories. You are spirit. You are divine. You are love.
It's like being plugged back into consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you feel so resourced afterwards. And the teacher training is really amazing because it's really inviting people into holding the space, not just for themselves, but also for others. Because as you know, Cory, when we teach pyramid breath, we also go into the practice ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not just teachers walking around telling others what to do. We actually co-create the space with the students. And so we are being just as wild and free and maybe even more so than our students. But that co-creation of the space elevates everyone and deepens everyone. Doesn't matter if you're online and people are in different parts of the world. The quantum container works. It's so powerful, especially during COVID. We really realized that when people were stuck in their apartments and feeling suicidal and depressed, and we could see how this really, really works. And we just started our teacher training. If you're listening to this now, you could probably still jump on if you're interested, because this is really the next level of it, where you learn to trust your vessel and you learn to trust the channel that opens in you that is not you, but is something greater than you that flows through you, that is happening. You feel it is happening. The words that you are speaking, what is coming from you is like poetry and art. And everyone in the room is getting chills, and you're literally creating a field of energy, or co-creating, because you become a channel, and holding it responsibly, holding it with beauty, holding it with grace, which I believe is the medicine the world so needs right now. And again, you're not sitting above your students. You're not better than them. You become the portal through which people get to remember that they too are divine love embodied. And it's
beautiful. I love the idea. I really believe in immersion trainings, like our immersions. I think that really, if you like something or you see you need something, immersions can go really far. Tony Robbins talks about this a lot. And, they always say like the best way to learn something is to teach it.
Yes.
So that's like with the intimacy, relationship, and sex coach course. It's like, I needed to learn it, but I'm like, I need personally more than just like a couple sessions.
Yeah.
I need to like learn how to teach this, which is really just how to learn it.
Yeah.
So I see that with your teacher training. It's like a way to like really go deep. But when I think about you, Johann, because I know it originated with you, and for those that don't know Johann, kind of his core question is boiled down to something like, and he does this like all the time, everywhere in his life when he's like around friends or in an environment. He's like, what are we not doing that we could do that could make this even better than it already is? That's his core question. And pyramid breath is sort of the ritual or practice expression of that, where I see it as a stacking of many things that work by themselves,
Yeah.
but you stack them together. I would say the two most important ones are sort of breath work and meditation, but there's also sort of sounding practice,
Yeah.
right? And dance, really. It's almost a form of dance, right? Which is, and you could probably put some other layers in there, like you could put visualizations, right? Sort of creative vision boarding and that kind of manifestation work. That's a little more like the Joe Dispenza type work, and it's all kind of stacked on top of each other.
A lot of shadow work.
So yeah, the shadow work as well. So that's what's really cool about it. What I love is you kind of show up for, I'll do some meditation, some breath work. That sounds nice. And you kind of get the full stack of like all the stuff that's really good and will help you rewire and change the from to. And I'm curious from Rachel's perspective, because I've known you long enough to know when this was sort of Johann's practice and ritual. And there were times where you're like, we were doing it and you're like, I cannot be in the room. I'm doing my own practice. And you were like, is Rachel okay? Yeah, Rachel's just doing it. What'd you say, Johann?
I said, oh, how things have changed.
Yeah. And so I'd be really actually curious, like what that journey's been like with you, because now you're the other teacher of it. It is now your joint practice and it's like the core of your practice as well. So I'm curious if you would be interested in telling that story. You wouldn't mind telling that story.
Yeah, of course. I think that, it is the foundation of everything that I do now. I believe in it so deeply. And I think everything that we've spoken about today, we've had such a rich conversation. The thing that I love about this practice the most is that it's dynamic and it's really actually a pattern interrupt, because a lot of us will find that this practice is quite confronting because of everything that you just expressed, because the dance-like movement, because of the sounding, because of the shadow work. We're going through all of these spaces and it's like, I can see this with Johann, especially like people, have a little bit of resistance because he's quite consistently being like, let's change the state of this experience. And a lot of people just want to rest in what is, and so even a meditation breath work that is more relaxed, it's like something that you can kind of, wherever you are, you're like, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to sit and I'm going to be like, okay, I'm doing this practice. Pyramid breath is not that. It is shaking you up. And when you become, like really steeped in that, it's so freeing. That's what I love about it the most, is that it makes room for every part of me. And so however I'm feeling, which I'm feeling different pretty much every single day, it's the space for it. It's a safe and sacred container for me to be like, okay, let me again drop out of my mind. What is my mind trying to organize? What am I actually feeling? And what does that feeling want to express through my body, through my sound, through my breath as? And it's an alchemical process. And it is really, like Michael Singer talks about, like you're handing yourself over to the divine. You're surrendering to the moment and to what spirit wants, or life force energy or consciousness, whatever it is, wants to do through you. And it's a trust process. And when you do that over and over again, you ground trust into your body. And I would say, for all of us in this world, that we come up against something quite consistently, which is like the fear of failure. Like I don't want to step out into something, or I don't want to take that risk because a part of me is afraid of failing, or a part of me is afraid of making it, whatever it is. And because of, I would say, this practice and our gratitude practice, I would say the most, is like, I'm not afraid of any feeling. I'm not afraid of failing. I'm not afraid of succeeding. I love all parts of myself. And that this practice has absolutely been the portal for that, because when I came to it, me as a woman, there were elements, and this also birthed when Johann and I were going through our biggest rupture of our relationship, which you so thank God held us through. It was me accessing my dark feminine and my rage and my anger and the shadow aspects that I was really afraid of, that I had, like shame and stigma around. And I was like, oh, I can bring this in safely, and then I can receive the guidance from, again, tying all these parts of me. So you're working with all of you versus just one part. That's to me like the dynamism that pyramid breath offers.
Yeah, I think for most people, if they could look behind the curtain of what they're really seeking, it's some form of freedom and aliveness.
Exactly.
Like freedom to be different and choose in moment to moment and get to be whatever they would want to be that is fitting. And then aliveness, that feeling of just like filled up, right? Energized, alive. And what I hear from you too is like, that's what this practice was designed for and what it brings. And listen, if you're listening, it's not meant to be just a pure advertisement for pyramid breath. Like it's great. If you're hearing this and you're like, that sounds cool, you should follow up on it, of course. And if you have things that you do, rituals or practices that bring you back to that freedom, that aliveness, that put trust back in your body, make your state so you're showing up at your best, that's what it's really about, right? And what is standing in the way of that is usually one of like the four assholes is what like one way of calling them. But like the ones that stand out to me that are the resistance to doing something like a gratitude practice or doing pyramid breath are being in control. Right. Being comfortable. Being right. And I said three, didn't I? There's a fourth one.
The fear of looking
good.
Silly.
That's the one. It's funny that it was the one I couldn't remember because that's the last. I knew the other three before. I was more like aware of those parts of me. Oh, I like to be comfortable. I like to be right. But looking good is something that has been blocking me a lot of my life until really, I've worked on it, but until really recently, even like to do a podcast. And that being comfortable and looking good are the big ones for me. And it's like, you can be comfortably in a state that's actually not working very well for you, or it's definitely not in alignment with your dreams and your goals. And you're showing up over and over again, just disconnected. There's no way this state's really going to get me to that dream. And that can be fine. And we can justify it for ourselves. But there's a part of us that looks at that and kind of is disappointed or loses trust in ourselves or is sad because you're like, I'm not actually showing up for myself. We lose trust and faith in ourselves, and that kind of can be its own vicious cycle, right? And so that being comfortable, I can be comfortable, but in a shitty state, but I'm comfortable. And it's like someone could be like, hey, would you like to feel amazing? And it's like, yeah, but that's going to be get there is going to be uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Right. And also when I'm uncomfortable on the way there, I could look kind of silly. And it's like, if you told me that's what's standing in the way of like my best self or my dreams, I'd be like, that's stupid. Of course I would overcome that. But if you look at my patterning, a lot of times I don't overcome that. Right. And it can be a battle to push through that looking good or being comfortable into some kind of action with intention, like we talked about, some kind of ritual that then puts me in that spot that I actually want to be and actually does feel good and support me. And so I think one of the interesting things is like, if you're doing it for yourself and what's working for you is working, awesome. Keep doing it. And maybe think about Johann's question. What are you not doing that you could do that can make that even better than it already is? But if you're having trouble doing it alone, this brings us back to the very first thing we were talking about couples trying to make it without real support, or just human beings trying to succeed without support. I mean, we know community is the number one thing that leads to fulfillment, right? And it's the same thing around ritual or breaking through. And so having teachers like you, and I'm saying this again, not getting paid for it, just truly believe it. Every time I get to be around you guys and have a conversation that is a kind of, as Rachel and I call it, or Rachel calls it, cosmic musings, or we're hanging out and we're having coffee and we're cosmic musing. Yohan's like, okay, we ready for our practice? And I'm inside going, no, I don't want to do that because I'm comfortable. Because with you guys, I don't mind being silly and look good, but I do love being comfortable always whenever who I'm around. You're like, okay, we ready for our practice? And he'll be like, what about, he's looking at his watch and it's, it's 9:25, and he's like, we're going to start at 9:35. And I'm like, oh, and then the compression of like having to take the action. I got to go to the bathroom and I got to get water. And my little ego's like spinning. And it's like the compression before the breakthrough. I find it so much easier to be in community and you have teachers and guides with that. And I'm assuming that's part of the reason you do it is because you see the difference of people. You get that feedback from people like, thank God you are doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of what keeps you coming back to want to teach this and do this?
1,000%.
Absolutely. I mean, and my favorite thing is to be in retreat, whether I'm teaching or receiving, because we do both. Like, we were just on retreat, 2 weeks ago, and like I was like, oh, this is the fucking best. It's the best to be in a cohesive state where you're growing together. And as you said, Coco, is like, and then you get to talk about it afterwards. And like, what are you experiencing? What's going on? And what did you discover? And like, those two states are my favorite states because I love to grow. I love to expand. And I think that there's nothing more encouraging than feeling and seeing someone right next to you having an opening. It gives you that you're like, okay, it's possible for me too. And I think, to bring us back to the first question, is like, we're so lucky because we have so many incredible humans in our sphere and so many incredible couples in our sphere. So like, we know firsthand experience that this stuff works because we're all doing it, and so it's like, okay, when we go through something hard together, it feels so much easier when someone's like, I know how you feel. I've been through something hard too. You don't feel alone. What worked for you? What helped for you? Let's do it together. Like, it's fuel to keep going.
And I think, like you alluded to earlier, Coco, it's like when we choose to become a teacher of something, it keeps us honest. It keeps us in our practice.
Yeah.
Especially with
so true.
if it's a somatic practice, you're likely going to be doing it yourself. Like with pyramid breath, when I'm teaching, I'm also practicing. So it's like a built-in commitment. I'm not just practicing really for myself anymore. I am also practicing so I can share this with others. And that commitment keeps me honest. It keeps me coming back. And because everyone has that resistance that we've been talking about, including me, it brings me back to the table again and again and again, or to the dojo, to the mat again and again and again. And then the fulfillment piece, when I do the check-in after, how was your practice today? Just hearing, feeling the state change from where people were before to where they are now. That's like what I live for. It's like that feeling of, wow, I helped make that happen. It's because of this space, and then reading people's comments underneath the videos and being like, wow, that practice was amazing. I had this breakthrough, this and that. That's like the juice for me. That is just, it's so good. It's so fulfilling. Like, I know that I'm doing something every day that's helping mankind, that's helping my fellow human, and it's so many of us are in jobs and doing stuff that we don't really get that fulfillment from. And so, we go looking for it at, in a bottle of whiskey or in, social media, wherever, and we never get it. But when we start teaching and sharing something that is fulfilling to us and others, that's when our life really blossoms into being, when we can serve, we can be of use. And especially if we're doing something that we love, it's like a win-win-win. I benefit, you benefit, the world benefits, and it's. I feel like that's the winning combo for life.
I asked my wife, what should I talk to them about? Like, what would you ask them? I try to ask at least one person that knows my guest, like what I should ask them, whether I ask online and she's like, talk to them about being a permission slip. And we had a really deep conversation with a friend about when you're playing it's your turn to be a leader. Some people play that role a lot, but hopefully everyone who is leading takes a turn being led. We all learn to be. You got to be a great follower to be a great leader. I really believe that. But when we're taking our turn being in the leader role. And there's lots of ways to lead, but one of the things we get to do is be a permission slip. We get to go first. We get to set the tone. We get to kind of set the vision. And whether we're supporting from the back or we're leading from the front. And I see you two, and my wife clearly does too, she brought up the topic, as some of the most ultimate permission slips. I know Rachel, for example, has been one of the actually both of you really, around like body positivity and me healing like my shame around my physical body, which I don't feel the same that I used to. But when I first met you, I was like so uncomfortable with my body. And you guys were like, bodies are great. We love bodies. And, and I feel like you two are so good, like the ultimate permission slip. So do you guys think about that? Or like, how do you think about that? Do you experience yourself is that intentional? How do you think about permission slip?
Yeah, I love that. I think, going back to what we were saying earlier, is like I'm all over the internet looking crazy. So it's like, and that feels great to me because it's just permission for me to be who I am moment to moment. And to bring it all the way back to the beginning, when I first started teaching, I was like, I'm doing this selfishly so that I create safety for me to be the most empowered version of myself. Because there's like, I don't want to intimidate people. I don't want people to feel small around me. I want them to feel big around me. So I know I have found that when I let myself just be who I am in all of my different array, messy, weird, sexy, powerful, all of it, it's like, and that's from a truly responsible way, it creates an energy in the space. It's like, we've all seen that person at the party who's like getting it, and they're setting a tone.
We're looking at
We're
one
looking
right
at
now.
one, exactly. You're setting a
looking back at
tone,
two of them.
of permission. And it's like, it's so freeing to not care what other people think. And I think I always actually go back, and I think you're probably the same to our acting days, because I was also an actor for a long time. When you're in a class and you see someone go up on stage and they're doing whatever practice we've been invited into doing, and they're trying to look cool doing it, they look so stupid. It's like, you're like,
cringing.
And then when you witness someone go up and be completely truthful to their moment, no matter what that is, whether it's a total breakdown, it's weird, it is so alive and free. It is literally like I mean, it gets you high. You can feel everything. I remember being in class and feeling like energy flowing from people and being like, holy shit, I'm like, and so I love that feeling because they feel great and people who are witnessing it feel great. It's like, again, it's a win-win formula. It's a way to free yourself from the narrative of who you think you're supposed to be and really give you permission to just be who you are, which then in turn is giving everyone else permission, which is right back giving you even deeper. So you're creating that mirrored effect. It is in a way selfish for me. I'm like, I'm doing it. I want to be free.
Yeah. I love that. I didn't think about that. It's like you're giving it to yourself first so you can feel it. Then they get to have it and you see them react to that. And then, now we're doing it. It's the virtuous cycle of that. How about you, Johann? I mean, I think one thing I remember, one of the stories Johann told me once was, when I was younger, because Johann's always been a very magnetic and powerful person. That's why he made it as a model and then as an actor. For those that don't know, he was one of the high fashion models and then actor, before becoming a teacher. And, he was uncomfortable. I don't know how you'll describe it, Johann, but you basically said like at parties, because you would like assert your dominance over other people. They'd be like, hey, how are you? You'd be like, how are you? And just kind of like fucking with people and kind of like mind fucking them and dominating them. And that was like a way that you, maybe you could tell the story for yourself, but there's been this massive shift. I wouldn't even say 180 degrees because it's almost like disconnected from that version. It's a whole different version. But I think a lot of people look at you as a masculine permission slip, and it's very different than being in a feminine version of that. So I'm curious how you look at that, Johann.
Yeah, the past version of me that you alluded to, it was deeply insecure. I was deeply insecure. I didn't feel safe in my body. I didn't feel safe with emotions and feelings. So I lived in my head, and the way that I learned to feel safe was if I felt like I was in control, which meant that I was manipulating and controlling the narrative. But it was all disempowered, and I had this front of being very confident, but really I was very insecure. And through also acting was pivotal for me. Therapy was pivotal for me. Stepping into discovery from being in the knowing was pivotal for me to be able to start to consolidate my shadow and take responsibility for my blind spots was pivotal for me. Because before then I was like, blind spots, I don't have any, what are you talking about? And consolidating the shadow is so vital and important for us to arrive at a place where we can then be fully expressed and not be ashamed of any part of us, but rather really get to look at all parts of us and then accept those parts, forgive ourselves for shaming, blaming, guilting any part of us, and then bring them forward for all to see. And I think that that's one of the greatest gifts I feel that we are giving to each other as well
Yes.
as the world is, when people step into a container with us, just like Rachel was saying, there is no parts of us or part of our story that we're unwilling to share, because we believe that it's through people seeing that we've been through the muck and we have not known. We've been so confused, been so disconnected, so afraid, so frustrated, so angry that they go like, oh, well, if you guys have been there then and now are where you are, clearly it's possible as well. So I think in that sense, it's so powerful. And also, when doing a ritual or a practice, right? Whether that is a spiritual practice like pyramid breath or gratitude, or it's dancing, which is also obviously a spiritual practice, but really like finding our freedom of not caring how we look like, but really just awakening that inner animus, that aliveness inside, and then also the permission slip to feel joy, to celebrate life, So now before we go, and this is another practice that that we do, is before we go to an event or before we do a podcast, before we do anything, a client session, we prime the moment. We change our energy so that when we arrive somewhere, we are already in a state of like, woo, overflowing gratitude, curiosity, playfulness. And so in that sense, it's like we realize that we are responsible for the way that we feel. And we also realize that the way that we feel greatly will affect everyone else around us. So going in, to a situation with awareness, with intention, and making it a ritual, and the key that I wanted to highlight too is it's so important. Whatever rituals we choose for life are fun.
Yeah.
Because when they're fun,
You're
you're so much more likely going to do them. And there's no reason that why they can't or shouldn't be fun. And so I think that, for some people, including myself, a past version of myself, I had a story that if you're having fun, it won't be spiritual or deep. Instead of,
you could have one or the other.
Yeah, you can't have both. Instead of, they absolutely go together.
Yes.
You can be fully present in your depth while having the best time. And it's so much more effective and infectious and brings everybody in when they know that, oh, wow, it can look that way. Like, let's go. So to what Rachel said, when we just know that we are the creators of our lives, we are the creators of everything. Life is happening through us, like you said. That to me is the invitation slip for myself to step into that, to say yes to that, and then have the best possible time in doing it.
I like that you said invitation slip. That was it was a Freudian slip or just a slip, but I kind of like invitation slip. There's like a permission slip's kind of just sitting there, but an invitation slip has your name on it. It's got like a bow and it's like mailed to you. It's like, Rachel, I would like to invitation slip you to joy. Well, I know you're going to say something, but I just want to say the epiphany I'm having in this conversation is that just like we are just our patterns when we're having a negative outcome. It's like, hey, you don't have to identify with that so hard. It's just, hey, this is your pattern. It doesn't seem to be working. Maybe we could try a different one. It's like we can just start doing these other patterns and then we become the people that are the result of that pattern, right? We can shape ourselves through the intentional action or the pattern that we choose to do. And you decide to do it. Hey, we're going to go to this party. It's tempting to not prime it, right? And change our state before, but we've maybe tried it when we did and we tried it when we didn't. And we're like, it's so much better when we did. So let's just do it. And then it's happening. And so I think that like seeing the ritual as actually just a pattern shift you're committed to, right? That you
Absolutely.
choose
Mhm.
over and over again. And obviously it's going to be, you're going to choose it more if it's fun. Rich, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, the last thing I was gonna say to that is like one of our teachers says, like, there's nothing more like freeing and empowering and amazing than being total.
Mm,
You know, like
Yeah.
when you are total in an experience, like you are getting the most out of whatever experience that is. And it's like that's our one of our North Stars is like I have it, I have totality tattooed on me. It's like just
Wow.
whatever it is that you're doing, just be total and give it your all, and it's you are going to reap the benefits. Period.
mhm.
I've heard that reminds me of like wholeness, like people saying, oh, be whole. But whole is kind of like being whole is good. It's
Yeah.
kind of soft.
Yeah.
Being total sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I
go
feel like a big
total,
robot
baby.
that can like, yeah, that's right. Like got like flames coming
Yeah.
out of me. I'm like all lit up. Yeah, being total. I like that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Well, one more before we get out of here. The thing that I don't know if you guys teach this much or talk about this much, but from the outside, something I know about you that is very unusual. Like it's off the charts unusual about the two of you. Rachel's like, oh, I can't wait to
Yeah,
hear
we
what he's
hear
about
this.
to say. There's many things, but the thing that I wanted to bring some attention to before we ended is building and leading community. And maybe even just being a part of community too. And because again, going back, that's the number one thing that determines our fulfillment and even our health is the quality of our relationships and being in a community. And you guys are so powerful at building, leading, and being a part of community. You basically had to move to another country to get a break from how much community you had going on. That's not 100% true, but it's partially true.
It's a little
You live
bit
in
true.
Ibiza now. We met in LA, living in Ibiza now. But I think even and then in Ibiza, right? It's a slightly different milieu of people, but a lot of your old community comes and visits, or not old community, but just other parts, and you're in a different spot, a different node. But you two, I feel like maybe not everyone can reach your level of community building or leadership because there's maybe some really ingrained, innate stuff from your childhood or just your personality type that not everyone's going to have. But I bet a lot of it is transferable. And so I'm just, if someone was to say like, hey, I see what you have and I want that. And I'm not meeting the people necessarily that I can just join their community. People aren't necessarily giving me that, what did we call it? Invitation slip. I'm not getting the invitation slip to the community of my dreams. Right. And people are kind of, well, I don't know where the people are. Where are they? And we talk about that. You can coach that. Go where the people are. Maybe you have some thoughts about that. But another part of it is like, you can actually start building the community. Maybe if you're not getting the invitation slip from it, then maybe that's a little bit of a clue that maybe you're supposed to be a little bit more proactive in being the person that's making it happen. So I'm curious what you would say to that person or how you look at that, because your results are off the charts in terms of the community that organizes around you too.
I'd say that become the person you want to attract.
Yeah.
Again, it's an inside job. We wanna feel differently, and we were hoping that other people are gonna make us feel differently. They're hoping the same from us, right? So become the person that other people feel differently around. And again, we talked about the magnetism, how everything is energy. When we change our energy, when we bring in ritual and practices into our life, that changes our state. And people go like, wow, it feels so good to hang out with you. Like, what are you doing? You seem calm, you seem centered. When you go off kilter, you bring yourself back. I feel safe around you. You're having fun. We all want to be around people like that. And that's how we get to cultivate community. That's why we, are community cultivators. We bring ritual everywhere we go. We are the ones to say, hey, have you done your practice today? Want to join in? What about just 5 minutes? They're like, no, I'm hungry. Like, what about 5 minutes? They're like, oh, okay. And then they're like, whoa, let's do that again. So it's like when you have a skill set, tool set, that you know how to change your state, and then you know how to change other people's state, you become the rock star. Because everyone wants it. Everyone wants to be around a person who's holding power responsibly while having fun, while inviting you in, while not elevating themselves above you, but really creating the container for everyone to be together in their most exalted state where we get to celebrate each other, celebrate each other as virtues, and also not look away from the parts that, need some healing or need to grow. Like, all is welcome.
Yeah.
And it begins with ourself. You have to start here. You cannot do this. You cannot cultivate that. It'll be false.
Yes.
And people will feel it.
Yes.
Or you'll just attract people that are equally as fucked up,
False.
and not ready for actual change. And then you'll be feeling disempowered and disillusioned and sad and all the other things. So become the person you want to attract.
And I also think, like, connection happens through shared experience. So
That's what I was,
I agree with everything that Johann is saying, like, without a doubt. And we are both, like, natural leaders. And in a sense that if I know what I want, and I want to feel free. I want to feel alive. I want to feel connected. I want to have amazing conversations. I want to have amazing experiences. I want to have amazing meals. And so if I want that, I'm like, I'll invite you into it. Let's go for a hike. Let's do a gratitude practice. Come over. Let's breathe together. Let's go to the beach. Let's play. Let's play a game. Let's make an amazing dinner. Let's have amazing conversation. Like, I mean, you, Cory, are, again, one of the people who absolutely holds us container. It's like we are the container that you're inviting people into. And so to what Johann said, it is that. It's like, if you want to have an experience, create it and invite people into it. And if you want to expand and grow, then be that expansive version of you that is magnetizing that. And it's like, both Johann and I would say that you are the same, Cory, is like, I won't settle for anything less. I just won't.
Yeah.
I'm just not, like, I'm here to live I'm here to squeeze every juice out of this experience that I can.
Yeah.
And I will create it. And if you're magnetized, then it will happen. And if not, then I love you and peace be with you.
Yeah. That was the most perfect answer, because it was such a unity of, like, the yin yang of the two of you. And the answer from the outside perspective, what I was listening for, because what I see in you guys is that first, you be the person you want to attract. So it's the inside job. That's what Johann started with. And he said some other things too. And then Rachel added the other part, which is, and Johann alluded to it, but you really put the button on it. Then do stuff that you can invite people into and have a shared experience. When you bring the combo of those together, community just sprouts. Like, it's so fertile, and it just wants to grow, and it wants to spread.
Yeah.
And I think that's dead on. And so that's perfect. I think for this one, we've done it. We're coming to a close. Yes. So, I would really, I say this with all the, like, love and truth in my heart. These two are two of the most incredible human beings and greatest teachers and coaches on the planet. And so I just want to create a little bit of time for you to talk about where people can find you and what they should, if they're interested, what you have going on. We talked about a few things, but how would you recap that? Where can they find you? What do you have going on? What do you want the people to know?
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram. I am Positive Pringle, positive energy. Pringle is my last name, and Urb Johann, and then the just devotionmethod.com. So that's like
not just devotion method.
It's devotionmethod.com.
Devotion method.
And I would say, that the teacher training is an amazing space. We're moving into more immersive experiences and more in-depth deep dives, because that's where we are experiencing the most expansion. And so this past year, we did a lot of immersions where people could to come and work with us in person. That's what we're really feeling passionate about, is like, come work with us one-on-one or 2-on-2, or whatever that configuration is, one person coming in and sitting with the two of us. We've had that happen, quite a few times this year, and it is incredible. So I think, deepest desire is to go deeper, these immersive experiences like teacher training, like, going into a year-long container, a 6-month container, or coming for like 3 days in person, retreat style. It's where I personally, as someone who's receiving, get the most out of. So it's also what I want to give.
Yeah. So right now the teacher training is going on for Pyramid Breath. Highly recommend you guys check that out. Also, you can join my Pyramid Breath channel. There's hundreds and hundreds of pre-recorded videos and practices that are really amazing. And then we usually do a bunch of different festivals
Yes.
and retreats and collaborations with people as well. So if you just want to follow us on Instagram, that's probably the easiest way to stay in touch with us, or get on our newsletter on Devotion Method.
Yeah, all of that's good. If you get the chance to be with these two in person, I highly recommend it. And if you're a couple and you're asking me, you're telling me about what's going on, and you want my guidance of who you should work with, I'm going to say these two. So just hear me now. You're going to get directed here eventually. So thank you so much to Johann Urb and to Rachel Pringle Urb. Rachel Pringle Urb. I love you guys. Thanks for coming on the
Love you
Supergood
so
Podcast.
much, babe. This is
Thank you for having
amazing.
us.
Yeah.
It's my joy. And so until next time, be super good. Thank you all for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff that helps people find the podcast. We really, really appreciate it. And with that, we'll see you soon.
Bye.